back to life.
It was indeed quite surprising because more often than not, when you speak about dinosaurs, we always think that it's organisms that never existed. But now the discovery proved that indeed they existed, especially in Zimbabwe.
The discovery was announced in late August, but some are just learning the news, like this 16-year-old history student who walked past the museum where the remains are being stored. I asked him if he knew where the oldest known dinosaur bones in Africa are being kept.
No, I do not. I was not aware that there were dinosaurs in Africa. I do not know where they're kept, where it's being kept. But there are dinosaurs in Africa. This is Africa.
The discovery is a point of pride for the country, and the museum officials hope by raising awareness they will get enough support to put the dinosaur together and showcase it to the world.
Of course, it's a thing of pride to know that Africa was also home to dinosaurs. Crossing away from that, rights group Amnesty International has called for a probe into abuses in Ethiopia-Tigray conflict, saying every party involved in the war in northern Tigray has committed crimes against humanity. Rights group Amnesty International has called for a probe into abuses in the Ethiopia-Tigrayan conflict, saying every party involved in the war in northern Tigray has committed crimes against humanity. An Amnesty International specialist on Ethiopia and Eritrea told a press conference in Nairobi on Wednesday. The first formal peace talks between the warring sides in the brutal two conflicts in the Ethiopia and Tigray region entered day 2 in South Africa on Wednesday. Led by the African Union, the negotiations in Pretoria follow a surge in fierce fighting in recent weeks that has alarmed the international community and triggered fears of civilians caught in the crossfire. Talks are being held at South Africa's Foreign Affairs Ministry headquarters. African Union Horn of Africa envoy and Nigerian former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who is the talk chief facilitator, was filmed and photographed entering the venue on Wednesday morning. Kenya's ex-president Uhuru Kenyatta, who is part of the mediating team, was also seen going to the building. So was South Africa's ex-vice president Phumzile Malambo Ngusuka. U.S. Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa, Mike Hammer, is also participating in the talks. The Pretoria Dialogue, the first publicly announced talks between the rivals, opened on Monday and is due to run until Sunday, according to the South African president.
Start of the conflict, we have seen serious human rights violations that might amount to crimes against humanity and war crimes. Some of the human rights violations which we have documented include rape and sexual violence, which is brutal and shocking. The rape and sexual violence which we have documented as Amnesty International was committed by all the parties to the conflict. There is no innocent party which has not committed human rights violations in this conflict. All of them. For the internment, the internment of all Tigrayans.
But there has so far been a media blackout with journalists kept outside the venue perimeter fence and no update has been issued. The dialogue between negotiators from the Ethiopian government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and the regional authorities in war-stricken Tigray came almost 2 months to the day since the fighting resumed, shattering a 5-month truce. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed first sent troops into Tigray in November 2020, prompting a quick victory over the North region's dissident leader, the TPLF, after what is said were attacks by the group on the federal army camps. The move followed long-running tensions with the TPLF, which had dominated Ethiopia's ruling coalition before Abiy came to power in 2018 and sidelined the party. Authorities in Zimbabwe say the death toll for illegal mining is rising, with more than 100,000 killed so far this year. This is more than double the casualties in 2020. Now, the government has launched a safety campaign aimed at illegal miners, but the struggling economy pushes many people to keep rising their lives underground. More information from our partners.
Mqini Ncube is one of many people involved in illegal gold mining in the Bubi district just outside Bulawayo, Zimbabwe's second biggest city. Now 22, he says he started mining at 11 years old when he dropped out of school. He has no plans to stop illegal mining despite the dangers.
It's the rainy season. We have to think about going back home. The shafts are not strong. Some are collapsing. If only we had something that could sustain us, we could stop mining here because it is not safe. But this is what's there.
The Ministries of Mines and of Environment say they are working to improve conditions for the miners. They say it is not just the deaths that concern them, but also the fact that miners earn so little for their dangerous work.
We try and engage illegal miners also because it's never safe to do your things illegally. First, it is against the law. Secondly, we believe that they get shortchanged, they are unable to access financing when they are doing mining illegally.
Benjamin Ndlovu, no relation to the Environment Minister, is with the Zimbabwe Small-Scale Miners Association. He says his group wants funding so miners can get better equipment. The government, he notes, already helps small-scale farmers.
The small miners in Zimbabwe have a bright future, especially if the government can come in and try to help the miners financially. Even the banks, if they can help the miners financially. For example, like in agriculture, where the government chips in with some seeds and some fertilizers and so some many other things.
Meanwhile, illegal miners in Zimbabwe continue their dangerous work and live in fear of being arrested. They can go days without finding minerals, but when they do, they can earn as much as $50 per day. Columbus.
The federal government of Nigeria on Monday gave reasons why it has not complied with the Court of Appeal's judgment that ordered the release of the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB Nnamdi Kanu. I had a chat with an African interview, and I had an interview with Comrade Ebele Chukwu, a social commentator and activist, and he shed more light on the situation on ground. A very beautiful day to you, dear viewers. You're tuned into Golfe TV Africa, and this is the interview with Hazel OGOIGBE. Now, today we're going to be talking about the release of Nnamdi Kanu and the reaction of the federal government. Now, Nigeria's appeal court has dropped all charges against separatist leader Nnamdi Kanu after ruling that he had been illegally arrested abroad. Now, the court also ruled that his extradition was illegal, and the ruling by a panel of 3 judges is seen as a major blow to the government, which had detained Mr. Kanu on various treason and terrorism-related charges. But the government says it will explore other legal options. Kanu was only charged and not acquitted, said a spokesperson for the Attorney General, Abubakar Malami. Now, the newest development states that the federal government on Monday gave reasons why it has not complied with the Court of Appeal judgment that ordered it to release the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. Now, the federal government of Nigeria, in an affidavit it filed in support of his application to stay the execution of the judgment, described Kanu as a flight risk person, insisting that the case against him borders on national security. Relying on the decided case law in the Federal Republic of Nigeria versus Asari Dokubo, the federal government of Nigeria argued that once a case is touched on national security, the right of the individual affected takes secondary place. The respondent is a flight risk person, and it is important to appreciate the gamut of depositions in our application. One of the grounds of the application is that this matter touches on national security. Therefore, Nnamdi Kanu cannot be released. Now, I have the privilege of having in the house today Comrade Ebele Chukwu, a businessman, a social commentator, an activist, and the convener of the Movement for Grassroots Governance, and is also an Igbo digital content creator. A very good day to you, Mr. Ebele. How are you doing today?
Glad to be here, Hazel. Good morning from here.
Now, briefly, Mr. Ebele, can you give us a brief background on why Nnamdi Kanu was detained initially?
It has been a lot of back and forth. The federal government is alleging terrorism which, they are alleged a lot of things which they keep on amending and amending and amending. So it becomes very difficult to place your hand or say, this is exactly what they are alleging Nnamdi Kanu of, without sounding, to sound modest, without sounding like an unpatriotic citizen. I think at best, the government sounds confused because up to this moment, they will allege terrorism, they will allege incitement to terrorism and a whole lot of things, which up until now, they have not been able to prove not a single charge against him in the court of competent jurisdiction. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Ebelengini, previously, the court ruled that his extradition was actually illegal. And presently, there has been a recent development, even when they said he has been discharged but not acquitted. The federal government said they were going to look into the matter. Now, presently, he has not been released. A new development by the federal government of Nigeria on Monday gave reasons why the federal government of Nigeria has not complied with the Court of Appeal. And they talked about the fact that it is a situation of national security. That means when a situation of national security is on board, then the right of the individual affected takes secondary place. So meaning Nnamdi Kanu would still be behind bars because of the sensitivity of the case. What are your reactions towards this newest development?
At this very point, I would say, what a sad time, an embarrassing time to be a Nigerian. This government seems to sometimes people will say 2 feet forward and about 10 feet backward. But in the instance of the federal government led by, I will now place the responsibility where it should be. Malami, who is the Attorney General of Nigeria. It has been from one confusion to the other, and it has never been any foot forward, no step forward, but various and countless steps backward. Now, they will really throw up jargons that we do Nigeria no good. The International Committee of Nations is watching. It keep on embarrassing us as Nigerians, showing the world that there is no respect for the judiciary by the executive arm of government. It is worse still that it is the Attorney General who is making a mess of the judiciary. This is a government that took Nnamdi Kanu to court. Upon not getting favorable judgment, they chose to disregard the judgment on the verdict of the court. If it is strictly on the principles of national security, why take him to court in the first place? It doesn't add up. Why take him to court in the first place, bringing him to court, giving the impression that this is a legal matter, and of course that if I'm taking a matter to court, it means that I'm subject to the ruling of the court, irrespective of how favorable or unfavorable the ruling may be to me. So I don't understand. First, the lawyers, the lead counsel, Michael Zokeme, SAN, son, has come out. He has come out to say that unfortunately, the federal government have no case at all to prove in court, and that's why they keep on employing delay tactics, amending charges and charges and charges. But you can only do these things for some time, and you gas up. And I think that is what the government has. The government has been boxed into a corner. They have no case ab initio. And how Nnamdi Kanu came into Nigeria is simply a case of extrajudicial rendition, which is kidnap. He should not have been brought into the shores of Nigeria that way. He should not, he has no case at all. He has absolutely no case to answer. And Malami talking about issue of national concern, is simply laughable. You talk. He came out first to say that Nnamdi Kanu's camp was saying that the court has discharged and acquitted Nnamdi Kanu, and he came out to say firstly that Nnamdi Kanu is discharged but not acquitted. So it's a clear case of what our people will say in Igbo. You know, when I will say, upon going forward, what I've said in the first place wouldn't hold water again. I will remember another thing, and I will say another thing. So it's simply a case of as our people will say. Now, the federal government have gone back to court to apply for a stay of execution. Why are you applying for a stay of execution again? I thought it is purely on issues of national concern, which you have no regard for the courts. Why are you, why are you going to court again to okay, now what happens? The court yesterday refused to grant that stay of execution. So we look forward to see well, as the events unfold. But there is something, power is transient. And sometime, people will really take responsibility for abusing the positions of authority that they have appointed to man.
Since the detention of Nnamdi Kanu, there has been reports that the Southeast has become, the insecurity has skyrocketed from 50% to like 80%. You know, we have different sections and different factions that are disguising under the concept of IPOP to make sure people do not go to work on Mondays. If people go out, they kill them, they kidnap people. What will be the effect of the release on Nnamdi Kanu on the peace and tranquility in southeastern Nigeria?
I think it is interesting to go back to, about 3 or 4 years ago, or even 5 years ago, how southeastern part of Nigeria used to be. It used to be the safest part of the country, very safe. The ease of doing business, vis-a-vis to other parts of Nigeria, southeast used to be very safe. And I think, with every sense of responsibility for what I'm saying, I think some people choose not to like the fact that vis-a-vis to other parts of Nigeria, southeast seems to be peaceful, and they keep trying not to look at Nigeria as one country. These are people who believe that the southeastern part of Nigeria has no business being peaceful, whereas other parts of Nigeria seems not to be in tranquility. So when Nnamdi Kanu was extrajudiciously rendered into Nigeria and was taken to court, IPOB, with the benefit of hindsight, erroneously choose to declare a sit at home every Monday, believing that the eastern part of Nigeria occupied by the Igbos. So there is this notion that the Igbos are likened to the Jews who don't play with money. They are very commercial, they don't joke with money, and the Mondays are very important in the lives of every Igbo. So they wanted to use it to push out the narrative out there that now FIFA could be a law, but as our people will say, if a farmer sees what is greater than the barn with which he stores his yam, he will simply sell off his farm. So they believe that this will send the right signal to the world and the government holding Nnamdi Kanu illegally. But it got out of hand. It got out of hand and was abused. Now, some hoodlums, some undesirable elements and outrightly criminals chose to exploit that sit-at-home order by the IPOB. And it went out of hand that even when IPOB has withdrawn that sit-at-home, due to the mayhem unleashed on innocent people by these criminal elements, masquerading their criminal activities in the guise of freedom fighting, in the guise of enforcing this state at home, invariably it took a turn. It reflected on the economy and the peace being enjoyed in the southern eastern part of Nigeria. And we keep telling the government to, before the verdict of the court, to explore the angle of political solution for Nnamdi Kanu, so that normalcy will be returned to the eastern part of Nigeria. A very responsible government will explore that angle. We really explore that angle, because no country has ever risen. No country has ever risen on the altar of insecurity. No nation known to have been risen on the altar of giving a certain people or certain ethnicities reasons to believe that they are not included in the country. So I had thought that the federal government, and when the Igbos tried all they could, exploiting the angles of using various political heavyweights and even the traditional rulers, the president simply told them that it is out of his hands, that he doesn't want to interfere. It is very important to know this. The president said he doesn't want to interfere. It is purely a judicial matter. And if Nnamdi Kanu has a case, he should go and prove his case in the court. Now that Nnamdi Kanu has proven his case in the court, we are now back to issues of national security. So who is deceiving who? Who is deceiving who? So there seems to be a careful, orchestrated agenda against, and I say this with every sense of responsibility, against the southern eastern part of Nigeria. I think if the federal government should respect the verdicts, the rulings of the court, now it will take away 95%. Whatever de facto, the jure legitimacy that these criminal elements are operating, the guise that these criminal elements are operating under the guise of freedom fighting. There won't be any other notion, there won't be any other agenda to put out there that we are doing this because the government has refused to release Nnamdi Kanu. And I think that's what a sensible government should do. At least release Nnamdi Kanu and give the people the moral booster to stand up against these criminal elements that seems to be unleashing mayhem on the innocent people of the southeastern part of Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ebele. Now, Mr. Ebele, you talked about inclusion. The Igbos are not feeling included when it comes to the government of Nigeria. Can you throw more light on that statement?
It is no longer something you whisper. It is now in the open. Everybody can see it. Since after the war, there has been very organized, careful exclusion of the southeasterners. We don't get to become the Nigerian, there seems to be a very designed agenda against us, that we don't get to become the Inspector General of the police, except when Goodluck Jonathan, who was who came from the southern part, if there is anything like even the south, okay, it's just a geographical expression, but in Nigeria, shockingly, it exists, south, as against every tenet of geography. So that was the only time an Igbo man became the Inspector General of Police in about after 50 years. Now, they also for the position of the commander in chief of the armed forces, no. Now there's this gentleman's agreement in Nigeria that power should be rotational. Now, you rotate between the North and the South for presidency. It has always been that way, so that Nigeria can peacefully coexist and every region will feel carried along. Now, in 1999, former President Olusegun Matthew Obasanjo became the president under the platform of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. He ruled for 8 years. At the expiration of his 8 years, he was from the southwestern part of the country. Southwestern part. Mind you, that power has always, there is this gentleman's agreement that power will be rotating from south, between the south and the north. And once you come to the south, when power comes to the south, you rotate between the southeast, the southwest, and the south-south.
Thank you so much, Mr. Belengini, for joining me on Golfe TV Africa.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Away from that, crossing over to the foreign scene, Rishi Sunak gives his first speech as Britain's new Prime Minister outside 10 Downing Street on the 25th of October 2022.
I will place economic stability and confidence at the heart of this government's agenda. This will mean difficult decisions to come. But you saw me during COVID doing everything I could to protect people and businesses with schemes like furlough. There are always limits, more so now than ever. But I promise you this, I will bring that same compassion to the challenges we face today. I will unite our country, not with words, but with action. I will work day in and day out to deliver for you. This government will have integrity, professionalism, and accountability at every level. Trust is earned, and I will earn yours. So I stand here before you, ready to lead our country into the future, to put your needs above politics, to reach out and build a government that represents the very best traditions of my party. Together, we can achieve incredible things. We will create a future worthy of the sacrifices so many have made, and fill tomorrow and every day thereafter with hope.
Coming up is the newspaper review on Golfe TV Africa. Stay tuned. You're still tuned into Golfe TV Africa, and it's still the 1 p.m. news with Hazel OGOIGBE. But welcome to the Newspaper Review, African Newspaper Review segment. This is the segment where we touch stories trending on the African scene. And today we're going to be starting from the local scene, starting on the pages of the Matin Libre. And this one is also talking about illegal fishing in Africa, and it's saying that they've caught some Chinese and Europeans have been caught for illegally fishing in Africa on the pages of the Matin Libre newspaper. And this was talking about a session of work between FBHB and FFHB. And it's saying, I'm a happy president of the Federation, saying Sidiku Karimo on pages 10 of the pages of the Matin Libre newspaper. And I'm going to be crossing away from that. Let's go over to the pages of the Guardian Post Cameroon. Away from the local scene. Now on the Guardian Post Cameroon, Bafoussam Regional Hospital, the minister orders director to cancel decisions that set West region on fire. That is on the pages of the Guardian Post Cameroon. And below that story, DDR adopts 5-year gender inclusive project. Now below that story, Port of Douala Bonabere on disputable economic impact. Away from that, let's cross over to the front page, Liberia. On the front page, Liberia today, it says, ignoring the deputy speaker's order, Zoe, who kidnapped and cut the genital of now fistula-prone 11-year-old, roams free and returns to Sandbush for more cutting. Away from that, crossing over to the pages of the Punch, Nigeria. On the pages of the Punch, Nigeria, it says, NDLEA freezes 20 billion in socialites, 103 bank accounts. And beside that story, it's talking about tears as BRT vehicle skills trader and apprentice laborer. Still on the pages of the Punch, it talks about the federal government announcing preferred bidders for the Abuja-Lagos airport. Away from that, moving to the Nation Nigeria. On the Nation Nigeria, PDP crisis, autumn attacks Atiku as Mimiko rejects jobs. This is where we conclude today's edition of the African Newspaper Review. The works of the 23rd edition of the Global Child Nutrition Forum was officially launched on Monday at the Palais de Congrès. More information in the following report.
The works of the 23rd edition of the Global Child Nutrition Forum were officially launched on Monday in Cotonou by the Minister of State in charge of development and coordination of government action, Mr. Abdoulaye Chane. The opening ceremony of this great world meeting on child nutrition, co-organized by the NGO Global Child Nutrition Forum, the government of Benin with the support of the World Food Programme and the Catholic Relief Services, was attended by representatives of governments, academic institutions, NGOs and multilateral organizations. Placed under the theme, Convergence of Forces for a Resilience and Sustainability of School Feeding Programs in the World, this forum, attended by actors from all continents, will permit to nourish reflections to support the elaboration and the implementation of sustainable feeding programs in connection with the national and international objectives in education, agriculture, and economy. Our country, Benin, thanks to the vision and leadership of President Patrice Talon, a man of challenges, commitment and development, has been living a wonderful experience since the 2016-2017 school year through an integrated school feeding program, stated the Minister of Nursery and Primary Education, Saliman Karimu, in his introductory speech. He added, however, that he is sure that Benin will make the most of the different panels planned during this World Forum to enrich its experience and make it more effective and efficient. Following him, the various partners reaffirmed their commitment and determination to always support Benin in this winning dynamic. The Minister of State, Abdoulaye Chane, welcomed the strong mobilization of participants. He said that this presence is a testimony of the interest of all in school feeding issues and a demonstration of the importance of school feeding, the economic impact that school canteens have on our land, and on local agricultural production was not overlooked by the Minister of State. For Abdoulaye Biochane, the present World Forum on Child Nutrition held in Cotonou essentially bears the mark of the commitment of the government of Benin in its fight against hunger carried out in schools with the foresight, equity, and method. Offering a hot meal to a child at school is neither a luxury nor a waste of resources, but a necessity and an investment made to promote the development of human capital. That is why, since 2016, the government has initiated this program, he added. He finally reaffirmed the gratitude of Beninese to all partners as well as the commitment of the government through this global forum to continue in the determination of innovative strategies in favor of strengthening the arrangements already put in place as part of the implementation of the Integrity School Feeding Program. The program of this World Forum includes plenary sessions, discussion panels, visit to some schools with canteens, and other activities.
To end this news edition, here's a recap of our top stories. Authorities in Zimbabwe say the death toll from illegal mining is rising. Rishi Sunak gives his first speech as Britain's new Prime Minister. Thanks for tuning in to Golfe TV Africa. I am Hazel OGOIGBE. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Golfe TV Africa, c'est toutes les voix, tous les points de vue,